Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Bunny or GunBunny and this is my journey through guns and cosplay. And today we're doing a video on the X-Files. And it's totally not an excuse for me to have been binging all of the X-Files while I'm having my flare-up. Yeah. So, because I can do whatever I want on my channel, that's what we're doing. And so, originally my plan was to just wear like this suit jacket because it's like, I don't know, FBI, I wanted to dress like professionally, but then I remembered that I had this really cool like alien necklace and these little kitty alien earrings, and then it kind of just got out of hand from there, because I was like, oh, this would go with it, and this would go with it, and then I wanted a corset because it looked cool. So yeah, this is what I'm wearing. I'm not really wearing pants because why would I need pants? So yeah, this is what you get to deal with today. I lost my tripod right now, so you're propped up on a stool on my computer. Because we're professional here, see? We're very professional. You can see by my suit, I'm a professional. Professionalism. That's what this is. It's not total chaos here. Let me move the camera back a little bit further. Yeah, professionalism, see? Okay, so we're talking about the X-Files today. Now, I've only watched, as of filming this, like halfway through season 3, so I've watched all of 1, all of 2, and then half of season 3. So we're talking about that for now. Basically this is just kind of going to be a slightly disorganized ADHD autistic rant. So yeah. Though actually I do really like this outfit. I feel very cool. I really love the X-Files. I'm a big fan of horror. I like how they lean into the unexplained because that's a big thing. Is like you're mad, like if you've read like Cthulhu or any of the kind of more classic horror stuff, not explaining it is kind of part of the horror. There's a whole thing I can go into the literature about, but this is not a literature channel. This is a gun channel. So we're going to be talking about the guns in the X-Files. One of the first things I've noticed especially in season 1, was the handling of the guns. Often when they were kind of entering a room, which that's a whole nother rant. Why can they not enter a room correctly? They could have avoided so many things and made so many more arrests and not gotten so injured if they learned how to like actually do tactics right. But anyway, that's a whole thing. The guns, I noticed, was one of the things that they would often do. Not just Mulder and Scully, but a lot of the like other characters who were supposed to be professionals would hold, like, say this is the gun, right? Instead of holding low ready or even like high ready, like up here, or kind of like, you know, like there, or even holding it up, they would hold it here, which is, you're like, oh, okay, that's good, that's pointing at the ceiling. But they would hold it in such a way that at times when they were moving, they were very much muzzling themselves in the face or the ear. And I get it, it's hard to hold your gun up high when you're wearing a suit jacket. Like you can actually see, like even without the corset, it would be hard to kind of hold it up here, that it's really restricting with your arms. And that's why you can have low ready. I don't know what the FBI doctrine was, but it definitely was not to muzzle yourself in the face. If it was, I would be very surprised. But yeah, like they were holding it instead of actually here, not muzzling their own faces or away from their faces. It was definitely often kind of pointing at their face, their cheek, their face. And that bothered me. I noticed in season 2 that got a lot better. They got a lot better about not holding it, pointing at their face. I don't know. I think at some point they got Canadian armor. It might have been season 2 or 3. But you notice there's a lot more guns. It seems like they have about a lot more variety, and it also just seems like the gun handling / knowledge gets a little bit better. You also see Mulder and Scully's holsters are really interesting. It seems like they both have belt clips that just clip onto their pants, or skirt in Scully's case in some points. Whereas Scully's tends to just be, I think it just tends to be a retention holster. Mulder's has like a little strap with a snap that he often will, is very dramatic. He unsnaps to pull out his gun. Though it seems to be that he gets rid of that later for a retention holster. Sorry, I'm taking my notes. So, one of the things I've noticed before I get into Mulder and Scully's guns specifically is the use of like the shorty ARs. They have some of the longer ones, but they have a lot of AR-15s. It seems like any government, SWAT team or anything like that will almost always have. They seem like they have on set like Mulder and Scully's pistols, a couple of revolvers, and like 2 other guns that are used by, other agents or SWAT or criminals. And then they have 16 ARs, and and they just rotate them. And they just use the same exact ones. They seem to be really good attached to the AR-15. And then also pump action shotguns. All of the cops that are like local police, not FBI, all have shotguns, which makes sense. I think that for a while it really was a thing for cops to have their car gun to be a pump action shotgun. So that is pretty much accurate, but I also think that pump actions are kind of easy to get and and also are very cinematically dramatic, which I think is important. You know, you often notice like the pump action in movies is often seen as you're pumping the action. It's dramatic, it's a threat, it's very cinematic, and that is part of the storytelling, which I like to sometimes give space in films and stuff for guns. We're like, oh yes, you need to use this for storytelling, rather than that's not how guns work, which is something I often notice is that Mulder and Scully both will often keep their guns holstered with mag in, but not with a round in the chamber, and they will dramatically rack the slide. And I think for me, I get that can partially be a storytelling thing of like, okay, we're really on. But if the gun has a safety, that might be, I know it's less visual and dramatic, but it would bother me less because I do think, you can double check me on this, but FBI doctrine at the time in the 90s was that you would have your gun hot and ready to go, chamber in the round, especially because the guns that Mulder and Scully are using are not guns, are guns that you can carry holstered hot, to my knowledge. I'll go into what guns those are. So that drove me a little bit crazy sometimes. I think I get the need to do that, but that's time. And it just makes it feel like a little bit less like they know what they're doing. They're the person who was watching this and knows guns. But I am giving them like a bit of a space. But on that one, because it is cinematically dramatic to like, you know, it's like pumping the action on a shotgun. What else about that? Meow. Okay, so another technique thing that really bothered me was they never use their sights. They're not hip firing, right? Which is a way to shoot without using your sights. But they're not, they have the isosceles stance often. Though I do see Mulder actually use Weaver once in a while, which I think is interesting because he can't seem to decide on what pistol stance he wants. He's doing isosceles, he's doing Weaver, you know, he's changing it up. But they never use their sights. No matter what they're doing, they're never using their sights. And I know that often they're at very short range, but they should still use their sights. They're not that good of shots, probably because they're not using their sights. So that drives me crazy. I am 99.9% sure that the FBI, you know, tells you to use the sights on your gun. I'm like, FBI, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure they would want them to have used the sights in the 90s even. They also both desperately need flashlights on their guns. That's another thing that drives me crazy. I also see them using a lot of stuff where they're shooting one-handed when they could easily be shooting two-handed, it's just more stable and it doesn't really make sense besides it looks cool to be shooting it one-handed. And again, this is kind of where a lot of action and sci-fi tropes were created. So the one-handed looks cool thing probably is part of that. Now I'm going to talk about the guns that they use specifically. So this is where I want to check my notes. When I started my channel, I decided that I was not going to monetize through YouTube and I wasn't going to do sponsorships unless Uncrustables wants to sponsor me. So I decided to basically be crowdfunded. The way that you can support me is through my Patreon, which is the link below. The paid tier starts at $5, and then there are many levels with different perks from there. So please go check it out. It's pretty cool. Yeah, you can also support me by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing my videos, checking your feed every Monday and every Thursday for my new videos, because that's when they come out, and YouTube's algorithm is a little bit of a bitch sometimes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video and my channel in general. Bye.